What comes in your mind when you read the words 21st century parenting? Most parents say, how to bring up our children in these changing times. Over the last 8 years, I've had the opportunity to interview more than 500 people looking for a job. First as CEO of Zealand Limited, and now as Managing Director at Leadership Boulevard and Chairman at Shanti Niketan School. What I've learned after interacting with so many hopeful young people is that a degree no longer equals job readiness. People come with impressive degrees, a BA, a BCom, BTech, or even MBA, but they don't have the skills of collaboration, thinking, or persistence. And they don't have the mindset of continuously learning and improving. I also learned that increasingly, knowledge is less important than the ability to apply that knowledge. You see, knowledge is available on the internet, but the internet doesn't come to your office to get things done. That people have to do, at least for now. So, what's special in the 21st century that parenting needs to evolve from what we experienced as children in the 20th century? There are two parts to it: 21st century and parenting. Our children in the 21st century are growing up in what we call a VUCA world. VUCA, it stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Let's see why we call the 21st century a VUCA world. Let's look at volatility first. The rate of change in our world has significantly increased. The rate of introduction and adaptation of technology has itself picked up pace. From radio to TV to computer, internet to mobile, how we access information and entertainment has transformed in front of our eyes in the last 25 years. From neighborhood grocer to supermarkets to online stores, how we shop has also transformed. Technology is playing a critical role in this volatility. There is something of an information explosion taking place, with the volume, the variety, and the velocity of information being at unprecedented levels. On 28th Feb, the finance minister of the country presented the budget. Even before the budget speech was over, my Twitter feed was full of analyses, tax calculators, and critiques. From the solitary Doordarshan, we have now over 200 TV channels, leading to an explosion in the variety of content. And with Google, Wikipedia, and Pinterest, any information you want is just a click away. All this is clearly beyond our ability to analyze, and what it leads to is low attention spans and a need for instant gratification. So how do we enable our children to make sense of this information and convert it into actionable knowledge? Technology is making many jobs obsolete. Machines and softwares can do tasks that men used to do and do them better and faster. Who knows which tasks will be left to do by the time our children graduate? Because whatever an app or a software can do, humans will be shifted out of that profession. But it's not all bad. Technology also offers new opportunities, ways of doing and ways of organizing that do not exist today. Question is, how do we prepare our children for this volatile world? Uncertain. While we spend so much energy thinking about what our future will look like, I'm not even sure whether we have a future, given the rate of environment degradation that we are inflicting upon the earth. Over the last century, the incidence of environment disasters has significantly increased, as shown by this graphic. We've seen this in India, with floods in Kosi, Uttarakhand, and Kashmir. And it doesn't look good, with the UN predicting that vast tracts of land will become deserts, cyclones and typhoons will become increasingly frequent, and low lying areas will get submerged, West Bengal being one of them. Why is it happening? Clearly, our increasing use of fossil fuels, petrol, diesel, coal, contribute to air pollution and global warming. Delhi is already the most polluted city in the world. Our rapid rate of deforestation has robbed us of our forest cover, leading to flooding, and the irresponsible manner in which we dispose of our garbage has led to our soil becoming poisonous, thereby poisoning whatever is grown on it. So, how do we enable our children to leave this world in a better place than what they inherited? That's a critical question for our future. Now, let's look at complex. The world is increasingly becoming interconnected. It's no longer enough to know about our village, our city, or our country. There are close to 110,000 flights every day, transporting people, goods, and disease from one part of the world to another. It took over a year for Vasco da Gama to travel from Portugal to India in the 15th century. Now, it takes just 5 hours for Ebola virus to travel from Africa to India. You don't know where the clothes or shoes you wear or the phone you use come from. You don't know how a natural disaster in China or the US affects our lives. We are living in an increasingly interconnected, complex world. And let's look at ambiguous. We no longer have clear, single, simple answers. Most questions have ambiguous answers requiring judgment and understanding of different perspectives. Is development good or bad? Ask an industrialist and a farmer, and you'll get different answers. So, in this increasingly ambiguous world, how do we enable our children to make choices? Okay, now that I have sufficiently alarmed you, the question is, how do we prepare our children for the 21st century? While there is a lot that we as parents can do, I'll share three simple steps. Just three. They might not solve everything, but they'll definitely help your children be better prepared for the VUCA world that they grow into. Step 1. Parent based on principle and not from your past. See, most of us have a default parenting style. What's yours? Ask yourself, do you give in to your child's demands for fear of a tantrum or for fear that he'll get hurt or feel bad? Then your parenting style is most likely permissive. Do you insist on your child listening to you because you say so? Do you get angry when your child talks back or doesn't listen to your instruction? Then most likely your style is authoritarian. Most of us have a simple formula that defines our parenting style. We do the same thing that our parents did if we think it worked for us, and we do the opposite of what our parents did if we think it did not work for us. In this way, we are stuck to our past. We're not doing what's appropriate for our child. We're just doing what was appropriate for us as children. Clearly, 20th century parenting cannot work for 21st century children. So, what's the way out? Replace parenting from your past with parenting based on principles. Become aware of your default parenting style and start operating on some principles. As a couple, I would suggest sit down and agree on some key principles that are important for you and your family. Keep in mind the challenges of the VUCA world. Here's an example. You don't have to copy this completely. I encourage you to make your own. The principles for our family, for example, are we can have different opinions on the same thing. It's okay to make mistakes as long as we learn from them. In fact, we should encourage mistakes because that's the best way to learn. We don't hit each other. Hitting is an action of a tired mind. We use magic words. We are responsible with money. And we take care of the environment. And as you start practicing these principles, your children will start imbibing them. Step 2. Focus on your child's actions and growth, not on labels or comparisons. Comparisons lock children into an external locus of control. They start defining their worth in relation to others. Since the other will continue to change in a VUCA world, this is not a great way to define your worth. So don't compare them with their siblings or neighbors. He does so well in exams, why can't you? Or your brother is so confident, why are you not? These kind of statements don't help your child. Instead, focus on how he can grow from where he was yesterday. Say things like, you could read letters last week, now you can read three-letter words. Next week, you will be able to read sentences. The week after that, you could be able to read stories. That's great progress. Every child is unique, and there is no one made from the same mold. So why compare with others? Also, in a VUCA world, a child needs to learn the skill of learning continuously. This can happen if we as parents don't label them but instead focus on what they can do. Labels like confident, shy, dumb, scared stick with you. Instead, focus on what he is doing or what he can do. If you look at your own strengths or weaknesses, they are most probably labels that you accepted from your parents or teachers, and 30 years later, you're still stuck with them. Imagine the labels you give to your children, and imagine that they will stick with them for life. Here are some labels that we usually use and how we can replace them with a focus on action. Instead of saying intelligent, say he puts in effort. Instead of saying shy, say he can speak more in public. Instead of saying dumb, say she needs another way to learn. Instead of saying confident, say speaks in front of strangers. And instead of saying weak, say needs to put in more effort. Action words give children an access to make a change. Labels are a judgment on the child and they impact his self worth. Step 3. Encourage imagination instead of stimulation. Do less of TV, iPads, smartphones, and video games. Do more of reading, researching, building, making, and travel. Have you watched a movie of a book you read? When you read, you're making your own movie in your head. When you watch a movie, you are seeing someone else's interpretation of the book. When you're playing a video game, you're playing by rules set by someone else. But when you make or build something, you're making your own rules as you go. Make electric circuits, build projects, make new recipes, do things with your child. As a parent, I would suggest make a simple promise to your child. We'll read a book every week, we'll make or build a project every month, and we'll travel to a place of historical or geographical importance every year. A book a week, a project a month, and a travel a year will truly make your child's imagination soar. So, the three steps: the ability to learn, the power of imagination, and operating as per principles and not rules will help your child in the VUCA world of the 21st century. Lastly, children are terrible at doing what they're told, but they are great at doing what they see. So, do yourself first what you want your child to do. As Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you and happy parenting.